channel. We're the Choose here from Choose to Explore, where we teach you guys how to see the world
and save $1.
So we just spent 6 amazing days in Namibia, and we went all over the country. This was an amazing experience, and I'm not gonna lie, Namibia truly surprised me as being one of my favorite countries in the world.
It's actually my top #1 favorite country I've been to. But if you don't plan ahead, it's easy to get stranded, overpay, or miss some of the best parts of Namibia.
Here's everything we wish someone would have told us before we went on this trip. So stay tuned, you don't want to miss this one.
So first we're going to get into what even makes Namibia unique. So this is one of the most least densely populated countries in the world. I'm talking about we would be driving for about an hour and not see another single car on the road.
We're from New York, and actually New York City has a bigger population than the whole country of Namibia. And that's crazy because it's such a big landmass.
And it has some of the most incredible diversity in landscapes throughout the country.
And when we talk about diversity in landscapes, we're talking about some of the largest sand dunes in the world. I'm talking about white sand dunes, orange sand dunes, red sand dunes, brown sand dunes.
And even the most photographed sand dune in the world, which is Dune 45.
It also has pink salt lakes, mountains, oceans, and over 40% of Namibia is under conservation. And it also has the oldest desert in the world, which is the Namib Desert.
It's also home to the largest national park in Africa and the second largest national park in the world, which is Namib-Naukluft National Park.
And it also has its diversity in wildlife. So during our time, we saw ostriches, we saw the oryxes, we saw elephants, there are lions you can see, we saw zebras, we saw springbok, we saw so many amazing animals here right in Namibia.
Yes, and that was when we were going through the dunes, down the street, and also through the safaris.
And not to mention, we also had an amazing experience where we got to feed giraffes in our accommodation.
That too.
How could we forget about the giraffes? And Namibia also is culturally diverse.
There are many different tribes there, including the Himba tribe. So next up, this is very important. I hope you're paying attention. So we visited Namibia in January 2025, but as of April 2025, things have changed. We visited without a visa, but that's no longer the case.
So US citizens are actually required to have a visa prior to their arrival in Namibia.
So we have the visa application linked in the description below, and you should also come prepared with a physical copy of your visa, along with your passport, and just make sure that your passport isn't expiring within 6 months of your departure to Namibia, and that you also have 3 blank pages remaining in your passport.
The next thing that we want to mention is how do you even get to Namibia?
Hopefully on a cheap flight.
So before this trip, we actually were in South Africa, and one of the main reasons why we even tied this country in is because we found such a cheap flight from South Africa. We actually found cheap flights from both Cape Town as well as Johannesburg. So we actually flew with a South African airline called Airlink. And I was pleasantly surprised with the service and the amenities for such a short flight. We got full food, beverages, and amazing views for a short, like 1.5 hour flight. Also, I was really surprised at how affordable the flights are. We got flights for under $60 per person, one way. So getting into Namibia, we actually flew into Windhoek, which is their capital. But there are also cheap, affordable flights into other regions that we'd recommend, such as Walvis Bay. If we were to do this again, we may have flown into Windhoek and actually flown out of Walvis Bay. That would have saved us a lot of time, effort, and gas from driving from Walvis Bay back to Windhoek. And that also would allow us to have more time exploring this amazing country.
And if you're wondering, how do you even find cheap flights? Well, we have a free guide for you on our top 9 ways to find cheap flights, which is linked in the description below to help you out.
The next thing that we're going to talk about is how many days do you need on your trip to Namibia? Now I'm going to be honest with you. The more days you have, the better your trip is going to be. And this is Namibia specific because while there is so much to do, it is such a big country and things are so far away from each other. To get from one tourist destination to another, it's usually like a 3 to 5 hour drive, almost anywhere in the country. Looking on a map, Namibia looks big, but driving through it, you realize how big Namibia is. We spent 6 days exploring, but every day we were driving for multiple hours in the day.
And we really do travel at a pretty fast pace. So if you want to slow it down and really get to enjoy Namibia, we would recommend at least 10 to 14 days to really get the full experience. But we did it in 6 days. It's possible, but honestly, you need more time.
Lots of energy drinks.
While planning this trip, we came across a newer travel booking site called Plannin.com that's been incredibly helpful for finding experiences in places like Namibia. It's a free platform where travelers share personal recommendations, tips, and favorite stays or things to do, and sometimes you'll find exclusive discounts of up to 40% off you won't get anywhere else. We found some great activities in Namibia on there, from desert excursions to wildlife tours, all reviewed by other real travelers. If you want to check it out, you can scan the QR code on screen or click the link in the description to sign up for a free account. Signing up is free, and it's a good tool to have if you're trying to save money and stress less when planning both your travel activities and accommodations. Huge thanks to Plannin for supporting this video and for helping travelers like us make smarter choices on the road.
So the next point is a super important point, and that is, when is the best time to visit Namibia? So there are going to be two main seasons in Namibia. You're going to have the wet season or the lower season, and you're also going to have the dry season or the high season.
Now, the wet season is from November to April, and the dry season is from May to October.
Now, during that wet season or that low season, you're going to find a lot less people than you normally would, which is when we visited. You're going to have cheaper prices for accommodations, tours, rental cars, and things like that.
However, one of the benefits of visiting during the dry season is that you can probably spot animals in the safari more readily because they'd all be gathering at the waterhole. But we went during the wet season and we still saw animals in the safari, so anytime is really good.
But one thing to note about the wet season is that it can be very, very hot. Now, this definitely depends on the region that you're visiting, because we went to Voigtland and Sossusvlei, and in the desert, it is dry and it is hot, and you got to get there early, because by 10 a.m., it is over 100 degrees and baking egg and cheese. It is so hot there.
So another benefit of going during the dry season would be that they're not super high temps like that.
Yeah, it's going to be cooler, drier temperatures. The next thing that you need to know, because this may ruin your trip, is about phone service in Namibia.
So we've been to so many different countries around the world, and typically we stay connected with T-Mobile, but that was not the case here in Namibia. In fact, we even try to use eSIMs a lot of times too, and many eSIMs were not available in Namibia, and we did find one, but it was like super expensive, so we wouldn't recommend using an eSIM. So what do you do here in Namibia to stay connected?
So actually in the airport of Windhoek, we actually found a telecom service shop, and in there I was able to buy a physical SIM. Shout out to Liv having an iPhone 13 or 12 or
13.
And 13 mini, which allowed her to put the SIM chip in. So because I have a US based iPhone 15, my phone doesn't have a physical SIM card chip. And in Namibia, eSIMs were not really supported here. So I actually had to buy an additional piece, which is like a mobile hotspot, and it honestly has been a game changer with me with traveling. So it's actually called like a pocket Wi-Fi thing, and I just take the physical SIM card and I put it in, and it kind of just boosts the service to anything. So it's like I can use it to connect my laptop, I can connect my phone, I can connect almost anything.
So that's exactly how you stay connected in Namibia. As soon as you get off of your flight, be sure to stop at the kiosk at the airport and they will help you out big time.
And one thing that I will note is that it generally was pretty affordable. On our Airlink South Africa flight, they actually gave us these little flyers that showed the prices and data, so that's why I was even interested in it. I don't remember exactly what it was, but you can actually see what we paid right here.
So has this video been helpful at all for you so far? If so, please just give us a like and also subscribe while you're at it.
The next thing that we're going to talk about is all things money in Namibia. So in Namibia, they use the Namibian dollar. And one benefit of us coming from South Africa and still having some leftover currency is that the Namibian dollar and the South African rand are 1-to-1 with each other. In Namibia, they actually accepted the South African rand throughout pretty interchangeably.
There are many cases where we did use cards, like at grocery stores, restaurants, and national parks, but they're pretty much still very much cash-based.
For a lot of accommodations, we booked ahead online, and we were not able to pay beforehand until we actually arrived at the property, and a lot of those properties wanted cash.
Now, if you are going to use a credit card, just be sure that you use one that doesn't have foreign transaction fees because those definitely add up. If you're wondering what credit cards are good for travel, I've written an entire article just for you to check out right here on ChooseToExplore.com.
The next topic that we're going to talk about is, where do you even stay in Namibia?
So you have some options. You can stay at a hotel, Airbnbs, or even do some camping.
So during our stay, we did a little bit of all of that actually. Our first day, in order to ease the queen into camping, we actually had an amazing stay right there in Windhoek. It was like maybe 15 minutes from the airport, where we had amazing high tea with giraffes.
Yeah, it's really cool, really nice, intimate place to stay. They only have about 5 different rooms, and you get to stay there right on the farm where they have different animals, such as the giraffes, which is just really cool, really peaceful place to stay.
Now, when I heard about the giraffe experience, I knew that I wanted to do this from way before when I heard about Giraffe Manor in Kenya. Now, what I realized is that Giraffe Manor is like $1,000 per person. And the thing that I loved about our time in Voigtland is that this experience was under $200 per person, and it was intimate. We had the giraffes to ourselves. We had amazing guides who took amazing photos and showed us how to treat the animals, and just amazing time.
Also, they had a massage for only about $40 for an hour, so come on, you can't really beat that.
Now, while a lot of these hotels can be amazing, luxurious experience, I'm not gonna lie to you, they're a little bit expensive. If you want a more inexpensive option, Airbnbs are gonna be a lot cheaper and affordable. For a majority of our trip, we actually were in different campgrounds where we had access to showers, electricity to charge our vehicle, private bathrooms, fires to cook our food. And one of my favorite things about camping in Namibia is it is the most stars I have ever seen in my life.
Can we put a photo on the screen? Because this is from my iPhone. We couldn't take the photos with our real camera, but this is from our iPhone. If you could just see how many stars that is, just imagine in real life.
You know, being a New Yorker, I always heard stories about people following the Northern Star and looking at the Milky Way and the different galaxies, and I never understood it really until I came to Namibia, because I saw so many stars I couldn't believe it. I would definitely be following all of them.
Now, we actually included all the links to the specific hotels, Airbnbs, and campsites that we stayed in and that we recommend included in our Explore Namibia travel guide, so be sure to download that. So the next thing that you need to know is what's absolutely essential for when you decide that you want to go camping in Namibia.
And that's renting a 4x4 vehicle. Now, we booked our 4x4 with ASCO Car Hire, and let me tell you, this was the best decision and one of the most amazing experiences I've ever had in the world. Having a 4x4 was so much more than just having a vehicle. Our 4x4 came equipped with a fridge, a double battery, dual gas tanks, a radio, a GPS, a shovel. It had tables, it had chairs, it had camping equipment. It had everything you need to living off the grid.
There was water to clean your dishes with, all the dishes that you ever would need camping.
And having a 4x4 allowed us to go to different regions that a regular car wouldn't be able to handle.
Also, being that it's usually like 100 degrees Fahrenheit in the middle of the day, it was great riding in our 4x4 with our AC blasting, so
that is true. The main thing that we loved about this 4x4 with ASCO Car Hires is they were super thorough before we even got the car and showing us all the amenities and what to do, because I've never done any of these things before. They even showed us how to open up the tent that is right on top of the roof, and it was easier than I could have imagined. I was able to set up camp in like under 5 to 10 minutes. I set up time lapses, but I did it so fast that the time lapse didn't even make sense.
He kept getting quicker and quicker at it, like he was a pro.
And it comes with sheets, pillows, and was so comfortable to stargaze and look up.
Yes, I can attest to that. It was definitely comfortable. I wouldn't steer you wrong, guys.
So now more specifically, we're going to give you tips on driving in Namibia.
So the first thing you need to know is that driving in Namibia, you'll be sitting on the right side of the car and driving on the left side of the road, which is the opposite of driving in the United States.
Now that's really all the tips that Liv can give you, because she was a passenger princess this whole trip. All the driving was on me. Now, one thing that I loved about Namibia is, for the most part, the roads are really, really good. So some of the roads are going to be your normal tar roads that we're accustomed to, but they also have a good amount of roads that are gravel. So I was nervous when they gave me the instructions on driving about driving on gravel, because number one, there are instructions to like lower the air pressure on the tires so that it can better handle and have better grip on the gravel. And there also are different speed advisories that you should drive on gravel versus the tar road. But I would say you're going to enjoy the natural African massage here in Namibia on those gravel roads.
It gets bumpy.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's not potholes, but it's gravel, so you're going to feel a little bit of the bumps, and it definitely kept me awake on these long drives. And another thing that I loved about the ASCO Car Hire cars is that when you drive over the suggested speed limit, It goes, and it keeps going until you slow down.
How do you know?
I mean, I heard it one time, just one time.
Don't speed, guys.
You especially don't want to speed because Namibia has a ton of wildlife, and there are a lot of animals that are going to run across the road or be nervous. So if you're speeding, it'll be very hard to maneuver and to avoid some of these animals. Also, our first 2 drives from Windhoek to Sossusvlei and then Sossusvlei to Swakopmund, there was almost nobody on the road. We were driving for hours and we're just looking at nobody.
My favorite kind of travel.
Liv is an introvert, so her not being able to see anybody was amazing. But the thing that was crazy to me is like, we look out and there would be like one house there and like not another house for like miles on miles. So like, where do they go to the hospital or grocery shop or go to work or do something? But also when we were leaving Swakopmund and we were driving up north, we saw way more tarred roads. We saw traffic, we saw trucks, we saw people carrying items and goods, and it was single lane traffic. So it definitely depends on the region that you're in and also the time of the day that you are driving.
And this just made me think of something else. So even though we were driving for a bit and didn't see many cars in some areas, it wasn't like super scary or anything like that because our 4x4 actually had built-in GPS, so they would know if something were to happen and they would come and get us. Luckily, they didn't need to come and get us, but you can feel secure with that.
The next point is that Namibia is a relatively new country. So Namibia actually was a part of South Africa, and before that, South Africa was colonized by the British, and then previously before that is the Dutch.
So Namibia got its independence from South Africa in 1990, and before that it was actually a German colony. And you can still see the German influence in areas like Sandwich Harbor, and also the British in Walvis Bay.
And this ties perfectly into our next point, which is about language in Namibia.
Now, English is one of the official languages in Namibia, which made it pretty convenient for us to navigate and communicate with everyone throughout the country. However, that's not to say that that's the only language in Namibia. There are so many different languages and dialects present in this country. The next thing that you need to know about Namibia has to do with the food.
So because we had a 4x4 and we spent a lot of time at campgrounds, we saved a lot of money by going to the grocery store and cooking our own food.
Which is absolutely necessary, especially if you're in one of those more remote areas and not near a town or city, because you won't find a restaurant anywhere nearby. So definitely having your own groceries on hand is very important when you are camping in Namibia.
And don't worry about it if you have too much food, because actually on our last day when we went to go fill up at the gas station, some of the workers asked us for our food and we donated so many things. We actually went out and bought more to give them because we just had leftover cash that we wanted to spend. So it's a great thing to help the people as well as to be prepared for any occasion food-wise, because you don't want to go hungry when there's nobody around.
Yes, exactly. So you can't get too many groceries, that's a fact.
But that's not to say that we only cooked our own food. We also ate at other restaurants, especially when we were in Windhoek and Walvis Bay. And one thing when we were going through the malls and looking at different restaurants, we were actually looking for Namibian food.
However, we noticed that the food in the restaurants were mainly Western-based foods, so we didn't really get a taste of the Namibian local foods.
Honestly, a lot of the places that we ate at were like burgers, ribs, barbecue, pizza. Yeah, I wanted to try. We were actually looking for Namibian cuisine, and honestly, we couldn't find it.
So if you know a food spot with local Namibian food that the people need to try, definitely comment below. Let everybody know, please. So this next tip is pretty important if you're going to bring any type of electronics with you to Namibia, which I'm sure you will. So they use different outlet plugs than we do in the United States. They use type D and type M. So if those aren't your typical plugs, then you will need a universal travel adapter.
And the great thing about the travel adapter is that is one thing that we do not leave the country without.
Yeah, so if you're curious about anything else that we absolutely will not leave the country without, we have an entire article on choosetoexplore.com for you to check out, so you'll be prepared to.
And our last point is going to be about safety in Namibia. So I'm going to be honest with you, Namibia felt like one of the safest places that I've ever been. My wife and I pretty much kept all our stuff in our 4x4, and we're not worried at all that somebody was going to try to break in and take our stuff.
And even if they tried, they probably couldn't, because there were so many locks on the windows, on the back doors, there were different keys. Like, it's a very secure vehicle.
And outside of the typical tourist destinations, we did not see too many people along the way.
So just to reiterate some of the tips from earlier, you definitely want to make sure you have your pocket Wi-Fi or your local SIM card so you can stay connected.
And also, you want to download your offline Google Maps of the destinations so that you can make sure that even if you don't have cell service, you still can find directions and where to go.
So even though we had a really great and safe time in Namibia, you really don't expect things to go wrong, but sometimes they can. So that's why you should always come prepared with a travel medical insurance like Safety Wing.
So one of the main reasons why I love Safety Wing is that it is super affordable. If you're under the age of 39, you can typically get a policy for under $2 a day. So for our 6 days in Namibia, our total was under $12 per person.
Yes, and we always mention that if you're 39 or younger, that it's only about $2 a day, but they have affordable plans for ages 40 and up as well. So just check out the link in the description below for Safety Wing to see the quote for your next trip.
So there you guys have it. Everything you need to know before you go to Namibia. Did any of these things surprise you, or did we forget anything that should be on the list? Let us know in the comments below. So thank you guys so much for checking out our channel. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you guys on the next one.